good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the Six Rings King Show on a new night, Monday night now, baby. We're really excited, actually, to have Eric McLean on the show here, college football analyst, co-host of The Huddle. Coach, yes! All right!
First touchdown of the year.
Miami Hurricanes, yeah. You know the name already. It's Mercy. Ha ha. It's a six-ring Kane show. Can't forget the name though. Got Jazz, Blue, Vision, DJ, break the game code. Ain't no changing them, ain't no breaking them. Real Portland live from the Hard Rock Stadium. Ball 14 for the orange and green. We see the six-ring champs. It's more than a dream. This is life on the field. Beyond 100 yards of Hurricane that's never still put a damage to your squad.
What's wrong with us? Seriously.
What's wrong with us? We're Miami Hurricanes fans.
Welcome to the Six Rings Kane Show, a show dedicated to Miami Hurricane sports, featuring the legendary Larry Bluestein, Jazz Santana, Vish, and Danny Gillette. Let's go Canes.
Oh, welcome back. Good evening. Welcome back to the Six Rings Kane Show. What's going on, fellas? How you guys doing?
Good.
Man, that intro, so much optimism at points this season.
Good.
That's all right, man. That's all right. We're still looking forward to more in the future. Yeah, crazy day today, right? Probably the craziest. It feels like the craziest day of the year. It's gonna be like the craziest week of the year. With the transfer portal finally opening up officially, legally, the transfer portal is now open, and as we were talking about earlier. I mean, we're talking about over 700-800 kids already probably in the portal. I know, DJ, last time we checked, it was at a 613, 633, something like that. So
yeah,
that was like 3 or 4 hours ago. So, I mean, we're talking about, 700-800 kids. You're probably going to get over 1,000 D1 players in that transfer portal. And that's a tricky thing, right? We'll kind of go over a few things. We're going to start off with.
I'll just say Blue's been talking about this for months about how we're going to see something the likes of which we've never seen when that portal opens, coupled with NIL, and
Oh yeah.
He tried to prepare us, but nothing really prepared us for some of what has happened today.
This is overload. This is information overload.
This is a whole new era.
It's the type of thing where you don't believe it until you actually see it and read it, and boy, is it a lot to take in.
Just as a context, half the starting quarterbacks in the ACC are in the portal.
So we're gonna get into that. We're definitely gonna talk about. First of all, we're probably gonna get into the Hurricanes, the guys that have, some of the guys that have entered the transfer portal. One big-ish news, probably one surprise, but we're probably gonna get a couple more surprises after that. So be on the lookout for that. But we're going to talk about the guys that are potentially going to come in and play for the University of Miami as well. We're not going to name them all. It's just too many names, obviously, but we'll kind of focus in on a couple of them. If you have some questions in the chat on some players, please feel free to throw it in there, and we'll do the best that we can. Look, coaches are, all the coaches, by the way, all the coaches are right now on the recruiting trail, right? So you've got some in California. You've got Mario went to Minnesota, Georgia, and Florida all yesterday and visited a whole bunch of players. He visited Jackson Carver over in Minnesota, went to Georgia to visit a couple of guys, then came back to Florida. You've got DVD, who was actually able to get out there and visit Cormani McLean at his game, and Jakeem Jackson as well this past weekend when Lakeland took on Kissimmee Osceola. So you've got Kevin Steele over in California with Collins and Chiampong, which we will speak about as well, because we've got some recruits, some commitments this weekend, some big time commitments as well that we want to speak on. So we've got a lot to cover today. But I want to start off first with the Canes players, right? A disappointing season for the Miami Hurricanes, guys. We've got a lot of players that, we saw the writing on the wall, whether they just couldn't cut it here, whether they, the culture didn't fit for them, lack of playing time, you name it. There's been a bunch of different things, right? Some talented guys that really didn't get to show much on the field, or some guys that really just weren't cut out to play on this team. So you're going to see a lot of movement. Right now, you've probably seen about 10 guys, maybe 10 of Miami's players. I don't know. the exact number, but I want to kind of talk about, excuse me, these guys first without naming them as a whole, right? We'll get into the Daryl Jackson news as well. That's probably the biggest one right now. Biggest surprise that he entered his name into the transfer portal today, a few hours ago. So that's probably the biggest surprise there. Are you? Let's put it this way: are you expecting another mass exodus from more players on this University of Miami football team? We'll start off with you, Blue. Blue, I know you've known some of these players that haven't been too happy, and some of the guys that decided that they were going to leave. Maybe they decide to stay. I know there's another conversation about the quarterbacks. TVD was rumored to be entering the transfer portal. We all thought Jake Garcia was probably going to go to try to get a better opportunity somewhere else. Right now, as of right now, they're both on the team. They both decided that we're going to stick. I think the biggest recruiting news so far is that TVD is going to stay. How do you feel about the quarterback room right now? Do you expect maybe one of them to leave? And then some of the other guys that you've seen that have entered the portal already for the Hurricanes?
Yeah, I don't think anybody's going to leave. I think from the quarterback room, I think Tyler probably understands that, his best deal for next year is to stay with this system, stay with the players that he knows, whoever's left. But at the same time, I don't think where's Jake going to go? And that's my point. And I made this today, and I was on a show in New York this morning, and I made the same point. These kids are leaving without any place to go. And, as a parent, I'm cringing because you're throwing away. And a lot of them could have stayed in the positions where they're at. Okay. They probably didn't feel comfortable. But you just don't throw things away blatantly if you don't have anything else. I mean, but they're doing it. And that's, if you look at the transfer portal, and I don't know if Danny or any of you guys addressed how many are in the transfer portal, but you got to also remember there's still quite a few of them from last year. And, I get, believe it or not, I get about 10 to 20 emails and messages from kids. Hey, remember me? I was here, I was there, now I'm nowhere. And I can understand their frustration, but if you looked at Deion Sanders' press conference on Saturday when he met his team, the Colorado team, and he put it into perspective. He says, most of you guys won't be here. And he's being transparent. He's being real because a lot of these kids may not fit into the plans. And, his plans are to, and, he's from that old school. And so is Mario Cristobal. I mean, as far as, the party's over, that easy way of doing things, I mean, if you're satisfied with 5-7, you're satisfied with 1-11, go somewhere else, because the train is running at Miami and it's moving forward, and it's going to be picking up more and more speed if you're not willing to put the effort in. And that means making a sacrifice. And the sacrifice is, if you're not starting, still be a team player. They've done it for decades at Alabama. They do it at Ohio State. Some guys are second and third teamers that used to be starters in high school and used to be the big men on campus, but they're not now. So you got to be a team player. And if you're not, there's the highway, and we'll see you later, because there's a lot of kids, as you mentioned. It's not going to be hard to fill out a roster. It really won't, because now you've got thousands in there, and you just look at kids' names that, Mario Cristobal or any of the other coaches say, hey, listen, I remember that kid when I coached so-and-so, and I like him. Let's look at his film. Let's, talk to some people about him. And I think that's what's going to happen. And poor high school seniors, that's the thing. And I'm dealing with that because that's what my job is in life, is to promote these high school seniors and get them scholarships. So unless you're a 5 or 4 star, you're falling into a situation where someone's going to much rather have a 21-year-old sophomore to be a junior, who's mature, who's got the grasp of what it takes to be a college student already, and is more mature, over a 17-year-old high school kid. And that's what you're going to face. And so if you're offered, and I could tell all the kids out there watching, if you are offered, you commit. You could always break that commitment if you find somebody, better, but commit. Get that damn thing, and and make sure you tell everybody, just so you can put the school on. Everyone's going to look at the school, and if they break that commitment, if the school breaks the commitment, it's more harsh because of the fact that they've got to think out of the box. Because if Joe Smith from, I don't know, Norland High School gets screwed, then the future kids from Norland High School and the coaches are not going to be looking at the school as much. And that was something that Walt Frazier, former Miami Carroll City head football coach, legendary, told me that, you know what, the one thing that I've taught my kids is that if you make a commitment, you're going to follow it through. Now, we expect the same from the colleges. And he told Reuben Carter, who was at Maryland at the time, he said, listen, my kid commits to you, it's a bond. It's his word is 100%. Now, if he commits to you and you break that commitment, you won't be welcome on this campus anymore. So there's a lot of games being played, guys. And from the standpoint of this transfer portal, it's helping and it's hurting. And yes, to answer your question, I think there's going to be more kids, because I think this is the first wave for a lot of these schools. Alabama lost 14 kids today. I mean, but those 14 kids don't even make a dent in what they have, but that's what I'm trying to say. You get kids like that because, Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, they're recruiting 4- and 5-star kids, and that's who they get. So if they decide to leave, those are the first kids that will get looked at. Like, oh, I remember that kid. He may not have fit in Alabama's plans, but he certainly fits over here. So that's what's going to happen. And I think that, don't be surprised. I just think that just from talking, our good friend Frank Ponce, who maybe we should have on maybe in the mid-January again, talk to him a little bit. But, we talked about this last week, and, he just told me the one thing is he says, you got to be positive about this whole thing. I mean, we're coming off a year where, we failed to meet expectations. But then I said to him, what kind of expectations can you come in when most of those kids, 70% of those kids weren't yours? You're working with somebody else's kids. You can make all the promises you want. That's why when Deion Sanders said to the Colorado kids the other day, he goes, I got 12 of my kids that are coming in, and they're gonna, it's up to you to beat them out. I like that. So let's see what happens. But I definitely think the high school seniors are getting screwed. And a lot of these average portal kids wasted their time going into the portal. And because where are they going to end up?
Jazz, you're muted. I'll just chime in real quick. So I think what we're seeing
is please chime in.
Yes, yeah. I think what we're seeing here is it's more professionalization, which is good in total for the players, but they got to be a lot more professional with their decision making and their behavior, and more calculating than they had to be in the past. It's just accelerating their maturity. You're going to get in the portal, you better have a landing spot. High school seniors, like Blue said, secure that offer early, because if you wait till now, and now you're not competing with other high school students anymore. In August, July, you are. Now you're competing with all of these kids in the portal too. So, it's about being methodical with that and securing your offers early. And also just all these decisions that go into the portal, we're going to learn more over time. Obviously, when a kid leaves the school, it also opens the spot up. So there's going to be just a lot of player movement. That's like the new reality. It's basically free agency. What I would say is, I expect a lot more kids, frankly. I checked the 247 website. Looked like we had about 10 in there right now. Daryl Jackson Jr. wasn't there yet, so that's at least 11. I expect at least a handful more. We're probably going to hit close to 20. So I would say Daryl Jackson Jr. is the first, regular player that was starting, that played a lot of snaps that we've seen go in there. He's probably not the last, though, because, some of them were playing by default because we didn't have people. So I think we'll probably see some other eyebrow raisers. And on the quarterbacks, I'd be surprised if all three are here through the whole process, because as much as you're saying, well, where will they go? Well, I mean, like I said at the top, half the ACC quarterbacks that were starters at the beginning of the year are in the portal already. Those teams need quarterbacks now.
Yep.
So the player movement also opens spots up.
Keep it.
So I don't know that all three of our quarterbacks are going to be here come spring.
Some of the most notable names, Phil Jerkovich, and transfers from Boston College, ends up at Pitts, right? I think he's a local kid from Pittsburgh. So he's going to go down there and play with his former offensive coordinator. Keaton Slovis has entered the transfer portal as well. But probably the biggest name I would say the biggest name in the ACC that has transferred is NC State quarterback Devin Leary. That's a big one. I think he's looking to get, not only is he looking to get paid, but I think a team like a Notre Dame or one of these big time teams that are, in the hunt for national titles or ranked top 10 in the country, they're going to want a guy like Devin Leary, who's, one of the top quarterbacks in the
Yeah.
country before he got hurt. So, and another one is DJ Uiagalelei. I know, sometimes he shows you glimpses of brilliance, and then sometimes he's not very good, right? But I think the writing was on the wall there with Kate Klubnik coming in and being, pretty good. I think that DJ decided that it's probably in his best interest. Chances are he's going to go out west again. All right. But you mentioned the Vish. There's a lot of players. The biggest name for Miami is Daryl Jackson right now. Significant playing time. Obviously, was one of the starters. Probably one of our better defensive linemen. There is other. It's not. I don't think it's a matter of NIL with him. There may be some other things that are affecting it. Family wise. We won't get into that. But the point is, you're going to see a lot of these names, DJ. You've seen it all throughout the ACC. With Miami, Clemson is one of the teams that has some of the most defectors as well. I think they had somewhere along 9 or 10 kids already. Virginia Tech has 10. Ohio State had 10. I know they're not in the ACC, but just some bigger programs that are having a lot
Texas
of.
A&M had 11, I think.
Yeah, Texas A&M had 11.
Not surprised.
Ohio State's in
Isn't
the
that funny?
playoffs, mind you.
Another big time offensive tackle just into the transfer portal from Alabama, Brockmeyer, the kid Brockmeyer, another offensive tackle who's a big time name. We'll get into Javion Cohen in a little bit because he's a big name than Miami. That obviously Alabama, the 2-year starter in Alabama. And he's a big time name that I think Miami is on the heels of right now. But DJ, you really quick just to kind of round out the Miami Hurricane, the actual players for the Canes that are leaving. How many more do you expect to leave? Do you expect many more surprises, or kind of just I don't want to say the run of the mill players, but the guys that just didn't really get it done here?
I expect more so the guys that just didn't really get it done here. I think, the guys that, did get it done are going to stay, and the guys that either, like you guys said, it's not for them, or, they this isn't what they signed up for, I guess, for lack of a better term. I think they're going to go. I don't think there's going to be any more big names, so to speak. I do think there may be a couple of, and I don't like using this term either, but fringe players, for lack of a better word. I don't really expect any big names, but I do expect to see some more departures. Nothing major, in my opinion. That could change, as we all know.
Yeah, I'm not. By the way, I'm not too concerned about making room for the guys that we are going to bring in, because I think it's all going to work itself out. But as Blue mentioned, it puts. I don't know if it's going to affect. Here's why, right? Here's my reasoning for this. I don't know if it's going to affect high school players as much as maybe we thought before, because of the rules that have changed recently, where they're allowed to recruit more. Vish, what was that law that went into effect again? Maybe you might remember, where programs are able to recruit more players now.
Yeah,
and
it's
bring in more guys.
the cap. I forget there's some technical name for it, which
Yeah,
is
I can't
spacing
remember
out as
that
well.
name,
But
yeah.
the cap of 25 in a year is gone.
It's gone, right?
So it's just managing to the 85. So you could bring in 40 players if you want right now.
Right.
If you have the scholarships for it.
And again, Blue, you probably know this better than we do, because you're entrenched in it, right? Like you're in there with the high school kids, and yeah, they're still gonna have issues finding a spot on some of those big time programs, or the Power Fives, and maybe even the Group of Fives. But you still got some really, really talented players that are probably going to end up in the FCS level, or at some of these smaller schools
Right.
that but then
Group of
but
5 schools.
group of 5 schools, but then they'll probably ball out, show out, and end up in the transfer
then,
portal
yeah,
next year, right? It's a vicious cycle with it when it comes to this. So it's going to be
unfortunately, that's the
interesting
way
to
it's
see.
happened.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean, you look at Keaton Slovis. I mean, he left USC to get to Pittsburgh, and now he's leaving.
and now he's leaving. Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, he's only got one. Phil Dracovic as well. Where was he before? Was he anywhere before Boston College?
Notre Dame, and
Oh,
then
that's right.
I think he started out at Notre Dame.
He did, and then he got beat up by Brandon Wimbush, I think.
Ooh, wow!
I want to say
I'd leave too.
But this happens, right? Blue, Vish, DJ, all of you. This happens sometimes. You're at a place, you get beat out by someone, right?
Yeah.
And you go to another place and you show out, and you're all of a sudden this really good player, right? Development is key, of course. Opportunity is key, because to me, I'm going to be honest with you guys, and this is not a knock on Jake Garcia, but right now he's in a tough spot because he's in between TVD and Jakari Brown, and then you've got Emory Williams coming in. God knows who else. I mean, we all know who else Mario's going after, right? The 2023, 2024 kids. He's still going after kids. So now Jake is in a tough spot. He's a talented kid. He's had a tough break here. He hasn't looked great. He's kind of regressed a little bit for one reason or another. He is the quintessential guy that can go in, and maybe he won't start at a Power 5 school, but you give him an opportunity at a Group of 5. And he would get it. I think a school would look at him and bring him in and make him the starting quarterback in a Group of 5, like a Charlotte or like a one of these smaller.
You made
programs.
a good point.
Well, it's also
why not take that opportunity
at this point? We
build up your stock.
Yeah, and that's definitely true. And I think at this point, the way the quarterbacks were handled this year was so, I would say, head scratching at times. I have no idea what they think of Jake Garcia. Because it looked like Jakari's ahead of him, in which case he's got to go because he's basically never going to play here. 2, he played most of the last game.
Right.
So I don't, but obviously he should have a better understanding where he stands. If he knows TVD's coming back, TVD's the starter, and Jakari's the next guy off the bench,
right?
Even going to another program where you don't have the guaranteed start, at least you have an opportunity to compete. That's still better than here where you're third in line, and that the coaches have already seen you for a year and they've kind of made that decision. No coach is ever going to say it's set in stone. Oh yeah, you can go out there and compete. But if they think TVD is the guy.
I think Barter's going to keep it real with him. Yeah.
But they'll always tell any player, and any good coach would do this. Hey, if you go out there and prove that you should be on the field, but he's not going to have the chance to do that.
No,
he's not. So.
And here's the thing, right? Like, so the story was also that, he's transferred so much, leaving from California, going to Georgia in the COVID year, and then coming down to Florida, that he kind of wants some stability in his life. I get that. I understand that. Well, there's a school 15 minutes down the road or 20 minutes down the road that I guarantee you needs a quarterback at FIU. So, it's about, you know what I mean? Like, hey,
and they're coming up with kids too. So
they're building their program up from scratch with Coach McIntyre and all that stuff too. So, you've got opportunities. What does Gary say? I wonder how much it was. We don't have a line on Jake isn't ready fast enough. At least Jakari can run, so let's go with him. Yeah, I mean that could be it as well. There's a lot of things I'm sure that went into not playing Jake or playing Jakari and so on and so forth. We can kind of speculate till we're blue in the face with that, but I just think it's going to be interesting to see what else happens with the Canes. Moving along, because
real quick, I mean real quick for once, for real. So the name of that 25 scholarship limit was called Initial Counters.
The Initial Counters, which
doesn't make any sense. So that's why we can never remember it. But anyway, that was it.
Nobody likes it. It sounds whack.
And I will say, to the point of high school development, a lot of these transfer portal guys are going to go to programs, and programs are going to get players who want to win right now, but they may be on the, I don't want to say higher level of eligibility, but they may only have 1 or 2 years left. So you're going to need to develop high school talent in order to offset the transfer portal additions, because a lot of these guys are, veterans, so to speak.
Yep. DJ, I want to start off with you on this, okay? Because this is interesting. Are there any guys that have entered the portal so far that have surprised you, right? Not from UM, not from Miami, but like from just in college football as a whole. Is there anybody that has kind of surprised that you say, hey, Kane's got to go after this guy, right? Well, let's put it this way. Forget about even that. Just the guys that have surprised you that have come out in the portal.
Cade McNamara, because I thought he was one of the biggest quarterbacks in college football in terms of name, and then just Keaton Slovis again, because I figured he would at least try to stay where he was at. Maybe I'm not sure exactly the full reasoning behind it, but it's just crazy to me how some of these guys transfer after 1 year in a program after already transferring. And I mean, I guess McNamara and Slovis would be my two guys that really kind of surprised me because those were some of the bigger names. Now I get McNamara was beat out by JJ McCarthy and Slovis didn't have the best season, but still, I mean, like we said earlier, if you're looking for a quarterback, this transfer portal cycle is for you.
Oh yeah. Um, Vish, are there any names that maybe you seen that have come out in the transfer portal that kind of pique your interest, or you say, that's surprising that those guys are out?
Yeah, quite a few actually. I guess the one thing I didn't really see shifting, I assumed if you're at a major program and you're starting and playing a lot, you're not really going to do this. Boy, was I wrong. I mean, there are teams players trying to upgrade slightly to like maybe position yourself a little bit better, get into the playoffs. And so for me, God, I'm misspacing the name. The North Carolina cornerback,
Cody Grimes.
yeah, that I mean, he was a starter. He's probably their best defensive player. They're in the ACC championship game on Saturday, on Mondays in the portal.
Yep.
I mean, that was the type of stuff you kind of expect like our players to be like looking around, but the teams that are kind of performing better. Arizona's best players in the portal to the receiver, who we
did
might
not.
Or might not have offered.
We did not. Singer, yeah,
Singer, who says we offered him, but a little friend of the program, Gabby Arrudia, disagrees with him. So
yeah,
I'll go primary source material on that one. But so yeah, I think that's the shift we're seeing, is that even Eric All from Michigan was their starting time year, got hurt, didn't really play a lot. He's in the portal. They're in the playoffs.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like that's just, I mean,
crazy, right? It's crazy.
Well, but I think part of it is the window has shifted so much earlier with signing day coming early. Same thing we were talking about college, like the high school kids got to lock their spots up. These kids know if I go in the portal in January, there might not be spots for me between the kids getting in there earlier and the high school kids signing early. I might be out of luck, and even if the team's in the playoffs, if don't feel part of that team or a big part of that team, I got to make my move now. It's just a paradigm shift. I'm really curious to see, next year with the 12 team, or I guess 2 years from now, the 12-team playoff. There could be major players, starters on these playoff teams, because right now we're still seeing like fringe players off the playoff teams. There could be like the best player off the 12th team in the country hit the portal before the playoffs, because like we're gonna lose anyway, and I gotta secure my future. I mean, you're seeing it in coaching too, where looks like Satterfield's going from Louisville to Cincinnati, and they're playing.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? That's crazy. Yeah,
I mean, it's just these are wild times we've got here.
By the way, some people, I just realized now, some people are asking, why they don't see pictures of Kevin Steele and only of Charlie Strong when he's visiting people. Trust me, Kevin Steele's out on the recruiting trail. He's out in California with, who was it that he was with? Oh, Roderick Wright, with Coach Wright, over to visit Collins at Champagne. So we'll get to that in a second. But Blue, I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on some of the players that we've been hearing that, Miami may be looking at them, okay? But I think that the first one we want to talk about, which is probably one of the biggest names, is Javion Cohen, the guard out of Alabama, that has entered his name in the transfer portal. I was thinking already about another player, but he entered his name in the transfer portal. Your thoughts on Javion Cohen and what, because a lot of people are saying that's the guy that Miami has to go after. I mean, we need a guard, we need a big guy like that. What are your thoughts on a kid like Javion Cohen?
Yeah, well, Ole Miss seems to be the landing spot for him right now because they're showing a lot of interest. I mean, and it's an SEC school. But I agree with you. I mean, he'd be a really, really, really good guy, especially with Frankie Tenalou and Malgoa coming in and having a couple of other kids. So he would be a guy that's what I talked about before, somebody who's been there, done that, got the college life kind of acclimated. I'll tell you a program you got to kind of watch out for. They're gonna start pulling in, especially because they lost their quarterback, is Florida. I think that when you talk about some of the top tier quarterbacks that are coming out right now, you mentioned
they'll be looking for one, right? They'll be looking
Huh?
for one. They'll be looking for one. That's for sure.
Definitely. That's why I'm saying, you've got to look at some of these programs that are losing some of these kids and what they need. And I go, what does that say? I didn't hear what he read.
What did Charles write there? Post it up. Keep an eye on the Come to Jesus meeting with Jay Williams. I'm assuming James Williams that Blue was talking about.
Oh yeah, about moving him into the box. Yeah.
We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that later.
But to answer your question, I think what you look at some of these guys, some of these coaches that Miami has with all this experience, and remember, probably with the exception of Charlie Strong, who hadn't been in it, but you look at a Dye and you look at some of the Oregon coaches, and you look at Steele and people who have been around. Remember, they recruited a lot of these kids to begin with. So they're figuring, they know a lot about them. And those will be kids. I think the Alabama kids would be a priority because you know what type of atmosphere they're coming out of and what work ethic they have. So I think you go to those programs that are losing kids that, unless it's an exceptional kid out of Texas A&I, but you go to these programs that are established, and that's what I think. And that's, just talking to some people, that's what's going to happen. And Coach Adai even stuck his head into the St. Thomas Tampa Jesuit game last week because I don't think they've really given up on Mac and Hussey, even though they're committed to Penn State. Both of them would come in and be immediate impact. Mac he turned that game around by himself the other night. Hussey's a tremendous safety prospect. So that's the thing too. You were talking about the transfer portal, and I think a lot of the focus is going to be nationally on a transfer portal, but that's where Miami can win out on kids who are, high school kids who are down to a decision in between this and that school. And all of a sudden the school that they're looking at brings in a 20-year-old defensive back that might push them back in the pecking order. And I think that's another thing that Miami's really going after. And there's a lot of kids. To pinpoint them right now, I would just be stabbing into the dark as far as the kid, but everybody's on their wish list, Jazz. That. Anybody comes out, even like the Justin Flows of this world. We all know what kind of impact that kid has.
Oh yeah, he's another one that entered the transfer portal. So he just entered the transfer portal.
That's what I'm saying. And so I'm sure there, he loved Coach Fell. I know that for a fact. And obviously, the Mario is the guy that went after him and beat Miami out for him, I believe. So, you got to watch those guys who came down. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry. You cut off. That's why.
No, I was saying that you've got to watch a lot of these kids who have had ties with these coaches before.
Right.
I think DJ mentioned quarterback out of Michigan who had a really, really good year last year. Well, who was his offensive coordinator? So you have somebody.
Yeah, but he's ending up at Iowa. He's going.
Yeah, he went to Iowa.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying. You look at guys like that. What type of player he was, what type of system he is. So you never know what's going to happen. There's a whole lot of these. Like when I talked to Charlie Strong, and he was telling me about a bunch of kids that he tried to go after. And this was, I think, maybe in July or August. And he goes, damn, I wish we could have got those kids. Some of those kids are now, I saw two of them enter the transfer portal. So we'll see.
By the way, keep in mind the transfer portal, they've got 45 days to make their decision as well. This is not like but it can take forever. And you're probably going to see, what you're probably going to see a lot is, Blue, is a lot of these players, some of these big names that are out there in the transfer portal now, testing the waters to try to build up their stock and get some more NIL money from the team that they're with.
Well,
and then go right back out and come right back out of the transfer portal.
yeah, it's
You're
sad,
probably
but
gonna
it's
see that.
it's happening, and there's going to be a lot of these guys that are going to be, pawning themselves in the off season. I mean,
Right.
just they're going to be trolling. I get upset because of the fact that a lot of these kids, I mean, just I mean, they think more of themselves than they really are. So I mean, and
Of
we'll
course.
see. I'm not gonna let you see. I'm gonna go with my instincts with Mario Cristobal, because here's a guy who, like you said, he's out busting his butt on the recruiting trail, and I'm sure all the colleges are around the country. But remember, this is the thing that Miami won't have to worry about. Is they don't have a bowl game. Well, these other guys are trying to get ready for their bowl games, and I want to see which college team, and I know it'll suck, that pulls out of a bowl game because they don't have enough kids.
Yeah.
Somebody
right?
brought that up today, and I didn't think about that. But you may get a lot of these. I mean, like already, a couple of quarterbacks aren't going to be playing. A couple of running backs aren't going to be playing. There's got to be some rule. There's got to be just some. I mean, you can't.
I think Vish mentioned that earlier today, right? Vish about the whole, that should probably move the transfer portal date till after, in January instead, because of the bowl games and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they want like Blues points, it's just gonna get worse. Like eventually, if not this year, there's gonna be a team who's like, we don't have enough players.
Yeah, the NCAA is gonna have to do something
to play here.
to
So
fix this.
Which means they won't, or they will make it worse. But
well,
anyway.
But I mean, the other thing is you can't force the players to play. A lot of them might
No, you're
at
right.
the ball game anyway, even if they're not allowed to be technically in the portal yet. Like, why do you want to go get it?
Hey, but Vish, these places spend millions and millions of dollars to get, a bowl game nice and for the kids, and bring a lot of sponsors, and they don't want to come in and have
And all that stuff. Yeah.
2 JV teams playing. I mean, that's not right to anybody, really.
Yeah,
but I understand what you're saying. Tough. I mean, look, let's say down here in the Orange Bowl, all of a sudden, a couple of kids. Well, you already have the 2 guys that started at quarterback won't be playing quarterback, and Hooker and what's his
DJ.
name?
DJ.
Yeah, DJ. Yeah. So, I don't know. I mean, but when you ask me about the transfer portal, you have to wait and see who really is going to be in and who. But I look at ties, and but I'll be asking more questions in the next week or so.
David is in the house. What's up, Dave? How you doing, man? From Sebastian's Lane over in the Miami Flow Media. What's going on, guys? Everybody that's on the show, we appreciate it. Les has a question. What effect? I'll answer this really quick. What effect will Dion have on the IMG portal players? Now, IMG was a direct connection with the U. Well, that him going to Colorado doesn't mean that we don't have a direct connection to the U. I think there's still that pipeline there. Look, Dion is on the other side of the country. He's gonna get his, right, just like everybody else is. He may get a guy or 2 here and there. But if Dion wants to be successful, he's going to have to recruit the West Coast also. He's in Pac-12 country over there. You got to go and you'll get some guys, but I don't think IMG is going to have any effect on where Deion Sanders is coaching.
West Coast and the Midwest too.
Yeah.
I think those will be his 2 big areas. I wouldn't worry too much about Florida, but you never know.
He'll get a guy or 2.
Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is, right? But worried about him taking no, I'm not worried about that. I'd be more worried about Mario going to the West Coast and taking the guys he wants from Colorado, so than anything else. But just kind of getting back to it really quick, we'll kind of close out with some transfer portal stuff here. I think this is fun. Out of all the guys that are in the portal now, give me 2 players that you want to see Miami go after. We'll start off with you, Vish. We'll start off with you.
So for me, I'm looking at kind of where our weaknesses were this year. So give me Flo. Well, I mean, I'm assuming TBD is coming back. Otherwise, I would grab 2 quarterbacks. But so I'm going linebacker with Flo out of Oregon, and then offensive lineman Cohen from Alabama. if we can pick, right?
Don't even ask me, because those are the 2 I had.
This is not.
You got to pick someone else, Blue. You got to pick someone else.
Man.
But, if we can,
as soon as you ask that question, because that's a need. I mean.
Yeah, no, it's the same. It's probably the same logic I have. Like, we need better offensive line play. We need better linebacker.
I want to hear yours, Blue. What do you got?
Those were the 2 guys that I was really zoned in on. And I can't think of anybody else right now that Miami really would target. I mean, that are difference makers that can come in and really just impact the team right away in 2023. See, there's other guys that may, because remember, I mean, you could look at tight ends, but Miami's going to have just a massively impressive tight end room.
Excuse me.
I'm thinking, I don't know. I don't know anybody. I was just looking at that list and I said, those are the two guys that just jumped out at me.
I'd throw in, Singer, the receiver. It's very productive. We need just a reliable target man. So I would throw him as a third in.
What about you, DJ? Yeah, I see DJ doing his homework there too.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely doing my homework because there's way too many names. There is way too many names. I was thinking Thornton, the wide receiver from Oregon, and then one name that popped up that I really like is the linebacker Deshaun McCullough from Indiana. He made an impact as a freshman, and I know we have linebackers coming in, but when you have, I believe he was a Big Ten honorable mention, and when you have ready-made linebackers, as we've learned the hard way in past years of when we didn't, you take them. So I think I'd really like Deshaun McCullough and Thornton, and I think those would fill two big needs.
Yeah, those are good. Those are good. So when I did this on Max's show, was it on Max's show? Yeah, was it? I can't even remember now, but I think so. It was still early, but I picked the kid Damian George from Alabama and Grant DeBose from Charlotte, who were early guys that had already mentioned it. But I'm gonna go a little different this time. I'm gonna go, and I know I mentioned this guy in the chat earlier. All good names, by the way. Justin Flo, Tony Banks, all really good names. I'm gonna go with I believe I'm saying his name right. I hope I don't butcher it. The linebacker that just entered the portal for Ohio State, Taraja Mitchell, I believe is the name. Yeah, Taraja Mitchell.
Good work, Jess.
Yeah, I'm getting better, man. I'm getting better.
Yeah.
Taraja Mitchell is the linebacker. Going with the linebacker thing. The only reason I don't pick Justin Flo right off the bat is because of his injury concerns. Right, he's very injury prone. Although he did play a lot this year, it just wasn't super productive. So I have my concerns, but he's still talented. Right, he's a big dude. I mean, talking about 6'3", 225, 230, right? Maybe even more. When healthy, sideline to sideline, there's not a lot better than him. So I like Justin Flo, but I'm gonna go to Raja Mitchell as my first guy that I want to see Miami go after. And since since you took Javion Cohen, I am going to go with this is a tough one, man, but offensive line has been the biggest issue for us. Big time. Like, this is the biggest issue for us. So I'm gonna go. I can't remember the kid's name. He's out of Iowa. Brock or Polk, something like that. Geez, I can't remember his name now. DJ,
I'll
I
look
don't
him
know.
up for you. I know who
Yeah,
you're talking about.
yeah, he's a big offensive lineman from Iowa as well. Uh, we need the offensive line. That offensive line needs to shore up. So look, some honorable mentions: Tyrese Chambers out of FIU, stud wide receiver. A little bit on the smaller end, but he is an absolute stud. Blue, I'm sure you know Tyrese pretty well. As far as what a talent he is. Seven McGee is a guy that I think Miami ends up picking up. Tony Grimes would be a big name. I just don't think that he's going to look at Miami. I think he's probably going to try to go to one of these playoff teams. To be quite honest with you, he's that kind of guy. Now, don't get me wrong. With open arms, my man, come Tony Grimes, get over here. But no, DJ, you got the name there by any chance? Get out of Iowa.
I found a linebacker from Iowa. I haven't found an offensive lineman. There's so many Iowa kids.
I know there's a lot of kids, but
Iowa has a lot.
They got a lot of kids over there. And then another one is Cavassier Smoke, is a kid out of Kentucky. Talented kid, was hurt this year also. So that's what you're going to see a lot of too, Blue, right? You're going to see a lot of kids that maybe were injured and not necessarily don't have the talent, but somebody else stepped up in their position and is kicking ass, and they're going to want to go somewhere else and get some playing time. So you're going to see that a lot. There's a lot of wide receivers that are out now. Vish mentioned one, Dorian Singer, Dante Cephas, the kid out of a smaller school as well, to Kent State. So you got a lot of players out there that Miami's going to look at, and I think the board has expanded even more now.
I'll just say, we went 5-7 this year. Our chat's undefeated though, because we get these back to back.
Tony Grimes, ASAP, boom, he is trash. I like it. I like it, baby.
Love our chat.
Yeah, shout out
Love
to
our
the chat,
chat,
baby.
Shout out to the chat.
52 Biggie and Lee. I like it, baby. I like it.
Did you? There's the other kid. The kid came out of Mississippi State. The wide receiver, Rara Thomas.
Oh, Rara Thomas.
Yep. Yeah, I watched him out of high school. That's a kid that a lot of people are on early on. So you never know what happens. I mean, like you mentioned, like somebody like Javion Cohen, who's the guy's a mammoth kid. I mean, he's an agile guy. I couldn't figure on how, he wouldn't have been a guy that I thought would have left, but I
know, right? That's a crazy thing, right?
Yeah,
you don't think about that.
Yeah, I mean, especially because my Alabama's really good at, bringing in, guys and placing them at the next level, and at all positions. So I mean, you like I said, a Devin Leary, like you said, he was a perfect fit for a Notre Dame or a program like that.
Yeah, Devin Leary might be a guy that might end up at Alabama because Bryce Young is out. He's going to the NFL. So, and they've got some 5-star and some big time high school kids coming in, but who's the guy behind them? It's what's his name again? Actually not bad. Milroe.
Milroe, who runs like a 4.1.
Right, but that could be a place. So I think there's
I will say some of these kids, maybe a lot of them, especially the more high profile ones entering the portal, are probably doing so because they were recruited into the portal with NIL money, and they're formality.
Okay, well, they're probably set. Yeah,
they're already they know what they're doing before.
There's always back channeling going on.
Who was going to bid for me the highest?
Well, I think they probably some of these ones that are like locked in starters on really good programs are leaving because they already know where they're going. They've got the money all lined up and everything's good to go.
Absolutely, you hit it right on the head, Fish. Absolutely. Turning it over before we get out of here, we've got some big news in recruiting. As the Hurricanes really did some damage this weekend and late last week as well. With is it 3 commitments?
Yeah,
one is a flip. And then, so we got 1 flip, and we've got a linebacker. Am I missing someone? Who's the other one that am I missing? Was it 3 or 2?
I think you had 3.
Oh, it was 3. Okay, I got it. Never mind. Let's start off with the first one. Actually, 2 flips. What am I talking about? 2 big flips. All right, one for a kid that me and Blue actually saw when we met him over at camp earlier this year. We'll mention this one, which I think this is the biggest one. We're talking about a kid who's committed to a playoff team, the highest ranked commit in their class right now. Miami, Mario Cristobal, and everybody went over there and they snatched him. And we're talking about big 6'7", 255-pound Collins Achiampong out of California. But he was committed to Michigan, flipped over to the Miami Hurricanes. I'm going to go through all 3 of them because we can kind of all touch base on some of that. So that's the first one, which was huge, right? We're talking about a big-time 4-star prospect who's a little raw, but, you can't teach that size. You can't teach that athletic ability. So 6'7", 255-pound defensive end, potential defensive tackle, right? A guy that could probably play inside and outside at the next level. That's a huge pickup from the number 2 ranked team in the country, a playoff team in Michigan. Flips them over to the Miami Hurricanes. The next one that I want to talk about is another big, humongous flip in all sense of the word. Okay, a guy that all of a sudden. The minute that you start to hear that he is, a really, really big time prospect playing really well in Georgia, right? He's a kid out of Georgia.
Joshua Horton.
Yeah. Yep, committed to North Carolina. But then you're starting to get, Georgia on him. You're starting to get Alabama on him. Well, before that, Miami was on him. And Miami was able to flip another big time defensive tackle, Joshua Horton from Georgia, Sandy Creek, Georgia, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe
Joshua?
No, Sandy Creek was actually
He
the
went to
linebacker.
Fairburn High School.
Yeah. Marcelius Pullman,
No,
which is
that
the
kid's
next
a
guy.
big time kid.
He
That's
he
a
is
kid
a
from Sandy
beast.
Creek.
Yep, so he's the high school commit out of Sandy Creek, Georgia. Big kid, 6'3",
Sick.
220 pounds. Talk to
Yeah.
me a little bit about him and then the other two as well, if you got a little bit of info. On that.
Yeah. Pulliam's really nice. I mean, he's a kid. He's a big kid. Actually, when I think during his junior year, they projected him as being a defensive end because he had the size, but he never really gained the weight. He's got speed. I mean, the kid could run. I watched him during a camp last summer, and I was just thoroughly impressed. And this is a guy that probably didn't have to show. Was at University of Florida, and probably didn't have to show out as much as he did, but he did. I mean, and that kind of really made me think, wow, that's a gamer. And I just kind of forgot about him until the last couple of days. And then you mentioned Joshua Horton. The thing about Joshua, I mean, this is a massive defensive tackle. I mean, he's like 6'4", almost 290. I remember the one thing that I remember about him: big hands, great long reach. I'll tell you what, and this kid has a passion for the game. I mean, he loves playing the game. He loves being around it. I mean, the thing that's going to endear him to the coaching staff is he's a weight room rat. He'll get in there and he'll go in there for hours and, and try to be in the best condition. And I remember his coach telling me the reason why is that he watched all these guys growing up before him that were pretty big, but they never went into the weight room and they always got hurt. And he figures that this, not only will he be in great shape, but probably prevent some injuries and he can stay on the field because you're not really valuable. But those two guys definitely are, I think, huge assets.
Oh yeah. Look, what I love about Pullman, what I love about this linebacker class as a whole. I mean, every single linebacker that's committed to this school right now, to the Canes, is bigger than the linebackers we have there, with the exception of maybe Wes and Chase.
Right.
Which are probably your biggest guys. But
and the Caleb Spencer kid that they got.
Oh,
too.
yeah, he's another kid that could play safety or linebacker, right? He's that big.
But you got to remember, he's getting bigger, and he's the last I heard he was like 218, 220.
Ooh, that's a big dude. Yeah,
you're looking at a kid who's got a really good frame, about 6'2", 220. I really liked him. You're right. I mean, the linebacking class as it is. But that's a position of need. Even Bobby Washington, who's like 6'3" and 220.
He might end up being the best one. I'm telling you, that's how good. I love Bobby Washington's game.
But you know what? And this is the thing. Miami's done okay in Georgia, but you look at the last couple of classes, and they're doing awesome in Georgia. It's usually Florida and Florida State that do well. And then you have Raul Aguirre, our buddy, who is still – a guy that everybody's coveting, a 4-star type kid, another 6'2", 225 type of guy. So I think this linebacker class, and then you look at Malik Bryant, who last week, I had a chance to watch a film of him in last week's game against Homestead. They lost to Homestead, but, I talked to a couple of the Homestead kids, and they said he's really, really good. He moves real well. And that's and that's the thing. This is the playoff time now. You got a lot of these kids, especially in the state of Florida, whether it be like Central and like with Bain and guys like that. And then you look at like a Heritage and what could happen with Fletcher and now that Brandon Innes said he's going to wait until February to make his decision. So you never know. I mean, and then Brown, who played a really, really good game against Jacksonville Bulls the other night. A lot of people love him. And I got a chance to see him up close and personal 2 weeks in a row. I like him a lot as well. And but this is also when a time that you look at a lot of those kids like Cormani McLean will be in action. We'll get a chance to see him down here next week because they play Venice, I believe, on Friday afternoon. At 1:00 over at Drive Pink Stadium. So we'll get a chance to lay our eyes on him a little bit. Venice with a couple of kids too. So that's what's good about those state playoffs. People are going to find these guys and, there's studs on Lake Wales that nobody knows about. And all of a sudden they come to the game and a couple of coaches will be there. And all of a sudden you go, wait a minute. I like that kid Elliott, or I like that kid Lewis, or and that's what happens. And I mean, like Chaminade Madonna, I mean, unfortunately, Chaminade has to play this week up in Tallahassee instead of in the mainstream down here. But college coaches will be there. And you look at, we have small schools in this state like Northview and Hawthorne. And like Hawthorne's got Jalen Ruth, who's going to Washington State. I mean, so you look at a lot of these small schools. The kid Malachi Wilson from Northview, which is a little teeny school, is going to Notre Dame. So in the state of Florida, it doesn't really matter size of the school. We've always had talent. You look back in the day of Andre Wadsworth. He went to a freaking Florida Christian. So, it happens. And that's why this recruiting period is going to be real important because, as you mentioned, a lot of the coaches around the country and a lot of these, states still are in playoffs, like Georgia, Florida, Texas. They're still into the playoffs. So this gives them an opportunity to go to the practices and see these kids, instead of just watching them on film. They get a chance to see them live. So I think that's important.
Yep, I agree. DJ, how excited are you about Collins Achiampong and Josh Horton flipping from Michigan and UNC respectively?
I think it's huge, especially Enchimpong. I was very sad when he initially announced his commitment to Michigan. And, he's a big guy. He can move really quickly for his size, and he's an impact player defensively. And we've seen, Miami land a couple of, defensive commitments in the class that can really make an impact. So I think landing a guy like Enchimpong, I'm not going to go so far to say he can be the cornerstone of the class, but he can definitely be a key piece. I think, you look for these versatile, playmakers, and he fits the bill. And, I think those two together will be able to help lay the foundation for the, future of Miami's defense.
Real quick before we get to you, Vish, just excuse me, a couple things that Anthony was saying here on the chat. Thanks, Anthony, for a shout out. I look at, he says here at the end, I look at Collins at the same point. He kind of reminds me of Gregory coming out of high school. Do you guys agree? No, I'll tell you why I don't agree. Greg Rousseau coming out of high school was 6'6", 210 pounds, 215 pounds. Collins Achiampong is 6'7", 250 almost already. This is, and I'm not saying
whole different animal there.
Yeah, a whole different animal. Now, Greg, obviously, Rousseau ended up being an absolute stud here, but he took a couple years to really get into that. He had to gain 40, 50 pounds. And now you see how much more dominant he is even in the NFL, right? He's an absolute monster. But I think that Collins could end up being a guy that plays defensive tackle for this team. That's how big he is now, right? You're talking about 6'7", 250 now. If you throw in another 20, 30 pounds on him, you're talking about a 6'7", 280, 290 pound kid. That's a monster. That's a defensive tackle. That's big time SEC football style defensive tackles, right? That's what you want out there. So, even as a defensive end, you see defensive ends in the SEC that are 6'7", 260, 270. That's the kind of guy that Collins Achiampong can be right off the bat in a year or two. He's got to learn some moves, right? Doesn't have the hands right now, but he's a strong, big kid who needs to develop that stuff. Fish, your thoughts on Collins and also, of course, Josh Horton and even Marcellus Pulliman. Excuse me.
Yeah, no, on Collins Achiampong, I think the big thing, and if you watch Michigan play, that's what Mario's trying to be. Yeah. And I know everyone's in love with Tennessee winging the ball over the field. He wants to be Michigan, and that's why you hire their offensive coordinator, and you can see how physical they are. And you look at Collins Achiampong, it's like, that's how they get physical. They get kids
and
like
by
that.
the way, for the people that think that they don't throw the ball around,
no, they throw it around.
McCarthy threw 3 touchdowns last week.
They throw it around, but he wants to physically control the game, and that requires dudes. And Collins Achiampong, those are the types of kids Michigan's been getting to get to the place they are now. Yep. So you can kind of see that through line. That's why he was committed there. It's a massive get, figuratively and literally. I mean, these are the types of kids when you want to. And by the way, you see these teams get in the red zone, they run the same damn play we do. We're just going to hand to the running back on the 2-yard line, except they can move people out of the way.
Right.
I mean, it's just
Exactly.
this is the steps towards being that physically dominant team, which is how he wants to play. Like, that is the intention here. So we're not going to go away from that, but you got to get the dudes to do it. And that flip is huge. It's huge for momentum. Like you said, pulling a kid off of a team, not just that's in the playoffs, is one of the best teams in the country, second year in the playoffs in a row, but fits them really well.
Right.
So it wasn't like a situation where like, yeah, we might be a better fit. No, he believes in the dream. And I think Mario can sell it. And that's what you consistently see, because there is nothing we put on the field that would convince anyone to come here, to be honest.
He's selling something that's not there. But
sell that dream.
Yep.
And you can see the vision. You can see what he's trying to do. And that's why he constantly talks about physicality. And now you're bringing in kids like Collins Achimpong who are physical like that. And that's when you see those kids develop as freshmen, sophomore, juniors. Then you're going to see the same damn plays we're running now that don't work. And when other teams run at us, and all of a sudden those 10, 15-yard games, like, this guy missed a tackle, what's going on, turn into 1- and 2-yard losses. It's because you get dudes like this.
Yep.
So one of many that are needed, but this is a step in the right direction.
A couple things. Jared Sanders, do you think we will bring back Gaddis back? I'm not going to speculate on that right now. He's recruiting. He's out on the trail. He's recruiting guys, and we may not. I'm not sure what's going to happen there. I think we're all going to have to wait. Anthony, but that style of offense doesn't really fit into the ACC. Though we were more of a spread. No, look, listen. Yeah, I don't really care what the style of who's to say what the style of offense is in the ACC. I really don't care and neither does Mario Cristobal either. He's going to bring his style of offense, which is like that, right? Punch you in the mouth, run you over, bring in those big uglies. So I don't think he really cares if it fits into the ACC. What does that even really mean? Right? What does that really even mean?
Right. Like Michigan would have walked the ACC this year. So I don't know exactly what we're talking about here.
Right.
I mean, I know there is, certain conferences, the teams tend to trend a certain direction, but that doesn't mean that's successful on a national level.
Yeah.
Right.
And even the Michigan's probably the extreme case of a team that just wants to run it down your throat. All those Jasmine, they throw it too, but but Alabama's doing the same thing. They got dudes, and they're just going to get physical with you too. It's just a different formations. It's a lot less overt. Right. Clemson does the same thing.
Yep.
Right. I mean, they use their quarterback as a battering ram. Like, I think we focus too much on formation. These are all teams that get bigger, faster, stronger dudes than you and push your buttons. And that's how they win every week. Because the best team that's relying on precise passing constantly, eventually the quarterback's going to have a bad day, or receivers are going to drop passes, or whatever.
Or you're going to run into a badass defense that can stop that.
That can just overwhelm you. And the teams that consistently are in the playoffs or around the playoffs are the teams that are physically dominating. Right. Because that happens every week.
Yeah.
You saw
the thing on Gaddis, I'll just say, like, obviously I don't know either, and Jazz is correct. We shouldn't be speculating. Whether he is or not, if you're dreaming of him going and us bringing in like a Chip Kelly clone to run that type of offense, that ain't happening.
That's not going to happen.
So whatever happens there, it happens, but I wouldn't expect some kind of dramatic shift in approach.
Yep. What were you going to say, DJ? I'm sorry.
I was going to say, you saw it when Ohio State took on Michigan a couple weeks ago. I mean, Ohio State had very good receivers, and, they had great seasons, but at the same time, Michigan was just able to pound the rock until the second half, and then that wore down the defense to open up the big plays. I mean, even Ohio State, not necessarily this year, but, a couple of years ago, had the running backs to go toe-to-toe to wear down the defenses and then open up.
Well, they had him this year. He just got hurt. Trevion,
yeah.
Mayan Williams, they just got hurt.
Also, the receivers were pretty good. So, you got to use them.
But they love to pound the football too, though. Yeah, right?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
It's just different formations. Like Vish said, different ways of doing it, but they love to pound the football. And that's important. Ian mentioned, Mesidor, Kelly, Maz, Chimpong, Wayne. We have the bodies at the position. It's the interior where the problem is. Yeah, look, they're recruiting the interior. I mean, a lot of you didn't mention him, but Josh Horton is the real deal. Holyfield, that kid on the inside. Blue, I don't know if you've gotten to see Josh Horton play much.
Yeah, that's what I was commenting on him before.
That's the kind of kid that can come in and make a difference on the inside
No
as
doubt.
well.
No doubt. You know,
So,
big physical kid.
yep. And trust me, if they don't get them in recruiting to high school, trust me, the transfer portal is there. There's going to be some big uglies that are going to end up popping up in the portal as well. So, let's see what else do we have here. Blue, for you in the state of Florida, in terms of recruiting this year, who is the most underrated corner, safety, or linebacker that nobody talks about because of the school that they play for?
Most underrated.
That's a tough question, huh?
Yeah, it kind of is.
If you want to noodle on that for a second, I'll talk a little bit about
go ahead.
This, which is the pipeline to Texas. So we need to recruit nationally to actually be a successful program. There's a lot of talent in Texas, so it would be a failure on our part if we're not going in there to pull.
I'm sure they're trying to do that. Yeah.
But
sure.
There's not going to be a huge Texas to Miami pipeline. There's Texas is there, A&M's there, TCU's there,
Texas,
Oklahoma reaches in there and pulls players out. So we need to go in there and selectively pull kids. And obviously we should take anyone talented, but there's just not going to be this mass of players coming in from Texas to Miami.
By the way, Ruben Bain, yes, he is a defensive end, correct, and he's a 5-star defensive end, and they have him ranked as a 4-star. That's ridiculous, but that's a discussion for another time. So
I could give you a player that I think is really being under recruited. Is that his name is DJ Holmes, defensive end from Pahokee, ended up with 32 sacks this year.
Wow,
kid's a monster, and he could be an outside linebacker. And I think, a lot of people aren't looking at him because they play him at defensive end at Pahokee. And I think that, that's one of the kids that I was talking about. There's a ton of kids. It's just that the only thing is especially in the state of Florida, there's so much talent. But, as I was telling a couple of the coaches the other day from colleges who asked me the same question about who's under the radar. Not anymore. You don't get that anymore because if a kid could play, everybody's going to see him. Coach will tell, Andrew Ivins, or he'll tell, somebody like that. And before you know it, everybody will know about him. So there's not a lot of secrets, but guys like DJ Holmes and kids of, like that, they seem to be the only reason why they're under recruiters because they're looked at one position and they really should be playing another, like the James Williamses of this world, who everyone looks at as a safety while he should be playing an outside linebacker or whatever, or rush. Could be a hell of a rush end, but I'll think.
So is he someone you would think Miami should be in? I'm looking at his offer sheet. He's got Pitt, UCF, Wake. So you think he's like a Miami
ACC schools, right?
Yeah, they're all ACC schools, Vish. So,
but if we take the same schools as those kids, we can't lie to ourselves in the fall and say we have more talent, regardless of what we're seeing on the field. So,
but you know what? If that's an attitude a lot of people were taking for the last 5 years, and meanwhile Wake Forest is the second best team, and Pitt's going to a bowl.
No, we're definitely worse than all the teams I just listed.
No, I'm just saying. Well. So you get a guy like DJ Holmes and you put him in a situation where, you already have the package and you already know. Now you develop him. And that's what I'm saying. He's a kid that's, and like I said, if you look at his film, he's quick off the ball, but here's a kid also, I think, he's got quickness and speed. So,
right.
And
he's a kid that you might see, his first year kind of develop and open up some people's eyes.
Yeah,
and all of a sudden he's in the transfer portal.
Well, see, that's another thing too. You're going to get in a situation now. It's almost how public schools feel. Is that they develop the kids as freshmen and sophomores and into their junior year, and then all of a sudden some private school takes them for their final year. So that's like this portal's been going on a long time in high school. It just hasn't been called the portal.
The first kid I remember, I remember just when I started getting into this, the first kid I remember that happened to was Patrick Robinson. The kid played 2 or 3 years at South Miami, and then
went to Gulliver,
snatched them up, and that was the end of that. And I was like so happy because it was my alma mater. We got Patrick Robinson, who's a stud. and there goes that. I mean,
Well, South Miami 2 years ago had that kid who's playing at Georgia Tech baseball, who was a hell of a defensive end, 6'5", 220.
Kai Wright.
Yes. Pretty decent. See, and I try to urge Miami to get on him, but
He's playing baseball, Blue?
Huh?
He's playing baseball over there?
Starts in center field for Georgia Tech.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
Well, I know he played baseball at South Miami too, so that's
he was that was his main sport. They just grabbed him over to the football side.
He was a defensive end. He was an all-state defensive end too.
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken.
See, those are the type of kids.
Kai
to me,
Wright,
but
wow.
What I'll do this week, I'll compile a list of guys that I think that Miami should go. That they have a chance to go. That guys are under the radar because this is the time of year that I start going through all my lists, and because college coaches ask me with the same question you were just asking me. So, and there's some, and I get a lot of film. You look at Bishop Verot, and Miami's taking a player from there every year the last couple of years. Yeah. And they got a sophomore quarterback in Carter who's 6'5", 220. So same thing like the other night. I watched what's his name, the coach from the Tampa Bay Bucks. Can't think of his name. What's his head? He used to be here. Both. I watch his son. Now his son's going to Georgia, right, as a linebacker, but he's 6'1", 190. So, and he played safety the other night against St. Thomas. So you look at guys like that, and you say to yourself, wait a minute. That's a kid. If he goes to the SEC at a linebacker, even if he's 210.
Yep.
I mean, those guys are 6'3", 230 and 240.
Yep.
And you look at some of those guys like that. So yeah, we'll come up with a list for next week.
So it looks like Miami has started to offer a couple of guys from the transfer portal. First one was Bram Walden, who's an offensive lineman that entered the portal from Oregon. Also a kid out of UTEP, Jeremiah Byers. Apparently it's confirmed that he's an offensive lineman from UTEP. There's been some other guys that they have offered recently.
You got to kind of trust Mario to evaluate the offensive line position.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I
wouldn't pay that much attention to like the school because he'll
I don't care about the school. Yeah, he's evaluated. It's all about what the film doesn't lie. So, what's up, Max? What's up, Daddy? Yeah, Daryl. The Daryl Jackson thing about him going to FSU had legs. I didn't want to kind of mention it because I wanted to see, if someone would announce it, but apparently it's an issue when it comes to the health of family members, and he's from that area, so it looks like he is going to go there. So, what do you have? Max has a question for Blue. Blue, your thoughts on Zach Katz?
He's in 8th grade. What a year he had.
Max, come on here talking all this mess. Jesus.
Yeah. Kid was the third leading passer in the state of Florida as an 8th grader.
That's wild.
So a couple of things, Anthony, for your question, we spent like the first 45 minutes on the portal and talked about.
Yeah, you're gonna
every day we could you could
be part of the rewatch crew, brother.
Yeah, you could definitely get that answer. But then Ian had asked the question: is this even realistic? I don't know how familiar you guys are with Conrad.
Yes, Conrad Hussey is the guy that Miami is looking at really, really, really hard.
So he's a Penn State commit right now.
Yeah, he is. He is the Penn State commit right now. But keep your eye on that.
Coach Adai was there the other night watching him. So yeah,
keep your eye on that one. There's a lot of smoke there, so keep an eye on that. Anthony also writes between Jakeem Jackson and Damari Brown. I know you butchered Damari's name, but that's okay. Who would you guys rather have a corner to pair up with McLean? You butchered his name too. Jesus, Anthony, get it together. And
really.
And this
year's where'd you go to South Miami?
Hey, easy.
Whoa.
Low blow, man.
Shots.
Low blow.
Or North Miami.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah,
no, I'd rather have.
I love Brown.
Give me any of them early, but yeah,
I love Brown. I watched him last week going up against some pretty good competition. I like
Jackson
him
did well for Kissimmee Osceola as well.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
He's the kid that's committed to Florida, so
right.
Oh,
good one. Good one. Good kid too.
What did Max say? That's my dad's best friend from Miami. This nephew. Oh, gotcha.
Oh, Katz.
Yeah, Cats. That's cool.
Oh,
that's
okay.
Cool. Jared Sanders, what about Ruben Owens, the Louisville commit? Yeah, I don't think Miami's going after him. So I wouldn't count on Ruben Owens. And I'm sure you're saying that because Scott Satterfield is leaving to go coach at Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Yeah. Damari Brown is a stud, but Jakeem Jackson is pretty good too. Damari Brown, though, I mean, he keeps playing around. He's going to lose out on that spot. I'm just letting you know now. But he's the real deal, Holyfield, also. So
Yeah. I
um,
think he makes his decision after the state game.
yeah, Fresh. Another good question. Texas A&M cornerback Denver Harris. I don't think they go after him. I think that he is an elite talent. He can come in and start right away, but I think his off the field issues, his character, has been a big thing, and we know that that's what Mario uh, he wants. He wants high character guys that are hard workers and that are going to come out and ball out. So another name to look out for is Sam McCall, who's obviously a big time kid. Played with Cormani McLean over at God, I don't
Lake
remember the
Gibson.
school.
Lake
Lake
Gibson.
Gibson. There you go. Lake Gibson ended up signing. He was a 5-star prospect. Ended up signing with Florida State last year. He's in the transfer portal. There's some smoke there with Sam McCall as well. So you guys that want cornerbacks, trust me, they're going after a lot of the big time cornerbacks as well. Not only in the transfer portal, but in high school. So yes. So Clark is the linebacker that's committed to Stanquan Clark, big time prospect out of he's at Central, right, Blue?
Yeah.
Stanquan? Yeah, Stanquan.
Yeah.
So he's another kid that Miami is still in play
Big
with
time
Stanquan
kid.
Clark.
Big time kid. Playmaker.
He is.
Fills
So
up the stat sheet.
I'd love to see that. Yeah, Sam McCall does have some diva issues, but I think that if he gets it under control, I think I don't see how you can't go after him. So I think he's that dude. So a lot of great questions here by Fresh, by Dave, and Anthony, and the whole crew. We do appreciate it. We will be back on Blue. Maybe we can do something for next Monday with that list.
Yeah.
And we'll compile a list. I'm sure next Monday is going to be even crazier. We got a lot of things.
And those are good kids to look at because you got to have some developmental under the radar kids because of the way the transfer portal is going. You got to have some kids that show up expecting to sit a year or two. Just because the portal's wide open and you get the 5-star in there, they don't play immediately. They're not waiting anymore. They're gone. What you're seeing here. So you do need some of those 3 and 4-star under the radar kids that know it's going to take them a little bit of time to develop.
Yep.
And that way you can build them and they'll stick around because a lot of these big time recruits, they've been the big man on high school campus and they show up to college and they give it a whole 3 months. I mean, if you think about that, some of these kids enrolled in August. They're out already. It's crazy.
Les, love it. Love the love, man. Smash the like button before you go. Yes, make sure you guys smash that like button. Help us out there with that. And make sure you guys subscribe to the channel so you guys can get all the content that we have coming at you. We're gonna have a huge show. What date is December 21st?
It's on a Wednesday, I think.
That's a Wednesday. Okay, Wednesday.
Wednesday or Thursday. I think one of those.
We're gonna have a big show. That is early National Signing Day, and we'll obviously have a lot of great info there as far as the transfer portal is concerned. Also, but keep it locked because we got a huge recruiting show that Wednesday. It's gonna be big. I'm just letting you guys know it's gonna be big. It's gonna be a monster. So make sure you guys tune in for that because we're gonna have people from everywhere. We're talking about Miami Flow Media. We're talking about potentially players that are going to sign with the Hurricanes. We got a lot of things going on, so make sure you keep it locked. But real quick, before we get out of here, let's give a shout out to Prize Picks, which is our sponsor for the night. Always doing it big, Prize Picks. Make sure you guys go to prizepicks.com. Here's how it works, right? When you go log in, make sure you put in the code 5, F-I-V-E, and Prize Picks will match up to $100 on your initial deposit. First $100, you don't even have to use it all at one time. Here's how it works. You can mix and match players from different leagues, from different position. You can do it all from different leagues, different games, different sports, everything, the whole nine. You can mix and match anywhere between 2 and 5 players. It all depends on how much money you want to win. So go to pick between 2 and 5 players. pick the over under on their individual categories that they have. So, for instance, if Josh Allen's over under on passing yards is 250, you choose the over under on that, and you win on that, right? So make sure you guys check it out. PrizePicks.com. Use the code word 5 FIVE, and they will match your initial deposit up to $100. Make sure you use the code 5 FIVE when you check it out. That's PrizePicks.com. Again, make sure you guys check us out every Monday night at 8:30 p.m. here on the 5 Reasons Sports YouTube channel. It's the Six Rings Kane Show. Make sure you smash the like button, subscribe, check us out. We've got some big things coming for you on the transfer portal and, of course, recruiting as always. You got to hear from the best, Larry Bluestein, and then the other three schmucks that are me, Vish, and DJ. That's how we work around here, baby. But we do appreciate everybody on the chat and everybody watching and the Rewatch crew. Take it easy. We'll see you guys on Monday. And as always, go Kings. Let's do it.
The Six Ring Kane Show. Yeah. The Six Ring Kane Show. Yeah. The Six Rings Kane Show. You know.